Ah, shit. Get your tea and your popcorn because we have hit yet another psychological jackpot. If you would like to look on your screen, you will see the face of desperation. And a lot of women, they talk so much shit about exoticals. And they talk so much shit about wanting corrective promotion, but then they turn around and chase after white men. This girl said that she met this guy in Europe, and the first red flag is that she asked him for his Instagram after he bought a round of drinks. Okay, so a guy comes up to her and her friend, and by the way, it wasn't just this man by himself coming up to her and saying, "Hey, you're beautiful. I wanted to buy you a drink." No, it was literally just him and his friend buying her and her friend a round of drinks. Just because a man buys you a drink, it does not mean that that man is going to be the love of your life. And that's how I know that a lot of these women, they have a femcel mindset. They have a pick me mindset. This girl was very cringe and very much a pick me. So these guys bought her and her friend some drinks. And then she asked him for his contact information. So she didn't even allow the guy to say, "Hey, can I get your phone number? Can I talk to you?" No, she was asking for his Instagram, and then they were like DMing back and forth. So that's already red flag number one. This man doesn't even want to exchange phone numbers with you. Anytime a man is corresponding with you back and forth via Instagram, that's not serious. That means that he's not taking you seriously. And this girl even admitted in the video that she doesn't take Instagram DMs seriously. She admitted that if a man responds to her stories or something, like that doesn't mean anything. Okay, so then why would you take a man so seriously where all he gave you was an Instagram account? And then the girl says that when she first met this man, that she asked for him and his friend's Instagram because she said she didn't want to make it look obvious. She was too embarrassed to just ask this guy for his number. And it's like, okay, so if my first interaction with a man is something cringy, if I'm already feeling embarrassed, if I'm already feeling a sense of humiliation upon my first interaction with this white man, why would I continue to humiliate myself? Do you see how the bar is in hell when the man is white or when he's non-black? Do you see how much they worship anyone who is lighter and brighter and whiter than them? And by the way, I'm bringing that up because when I was watching it, the first thing she says within the first 2 minutes is, "Oh, I saw this man and he had blonde hair and blue eyes and he had very tan skin." Okay, so you're starting off by describing his features. So you know how they get mad when black men say, "Oh, I like a long hair, thick red bone," or, "She has pretty eyes." So they get mad when people talk about mixed women's eye color and skin tones. But here she is in a video talking about a man's eye color and skin tone. And by the way, I can't play the video because they're going to try to copyright the crap out of me because they're about to get dragged. This girl's about to get dragged for filth in this video. But it starts off where this guy buys her a round of drinks. She becomes desperate. He didn't give her his number, so she asked him and his friend for their Instagrams because she was too embarrassed to just ask him. But that's also a form of desperation because have you ever been around those women who are like stalkers? They stalk people on Instagram. Have you ever been around the type of woman where she stalks her crush and she stalks her crush's homeboys because, she wants to see their stories, she wants to see what he's doing. So that's what this is giving. Her automatically wanting to have both his and his friends' Instagrams. Okay, so you can stalk them. That's the only reason you want to have their Instagram. So you can try to look up on their IG stories where they're going, and then you can desperately show up there. That's pick-me behavior. We all know that is a classic pick-me tactic. They stalk the man they're interested in. Go watch the YouTube channels where they talk about where they want to hang out. They say like, "Oh, go where all the men are at." Okay, so she's already starting off asking both of these non-black men for their Instagrams. So the man ends up leaving, and they have not even exchanged phone numbers. They just have each other's Instagrams, and that's it. So this man, upon meeting her, he didn't think she was worthy of him and her exchanging phone numbers, him asking her on a date. It's like, ma'am, if you really want to date a white man that bad, at least date a white man who actually asks you on a date. So this man leaves. He doesn't give a fuck whether he sees her or not. He leaves with a new Instagram follower. He leaves with a new IG groupie, which is what she's about to be. And then she said that later on that evening, she happened to see him in a restaurant. Like him and his friend showed up at the same restaurant she was at. and it was not intentional. So this man never even said, hey, I'm coming to this restaurant to meet you. I'm coming to the restaurant because, I want to take you on a date. No, they just happened to see each other out on the streets, basically. And then at the 3-minute mark, this girl says that these men didn't even sit with them. So not only did he just happen to show up at the restaurant, but then when he sees you, he doesn't even get excited. He's just like, oh, hey, it's the girl from earlier. It's the girl from the pool earlier. So him and his friend, they don't even sit down at the restaurant with them or want to go out with them. And then she said that this white man was like, oh, hey, we can meet up maybe at the bar. So she goes to the bar afterwards, waiting for this white man like a desperate ass pick-me. And by the way, this black woman, she was on vacation when this happened. Imagine me wasting my time on a vacation. I'm on a vacation in another country, and instead of enjoying that country, I'm wasting my time sitting at a bar by myself, waiting for a random man to come meet up with me. So a lot of people missed the part at the beginning where she said that she got so tired. She was so tired and jet lagged. Okay, so instead of me getting sleep, instead of me going and getting my beauty rest and overcoming my jet lag so I can enjoy myself on my vacation, I would rather suffer through it and lose sleep over a man. So within 24 hours, this black woman is already losing sleep over a white man. Just imagine if this guy was black. Imagine if this man was black. So he didn't ask her for her phone number. He didn't show up to the bar. Imagine if a black man did this. They would be calling him all kinds of dusty. So she's over here losing sleep, and eventually she gets so tired that she leaves. And then she says that she DM'd this man as she was leaving. So she's still DMing this guy. Imagine not blocking a man. So after you guys were supposed to meet up, or he said he was going to show up, or you were looking forward to meeting him. By the way, this guy didn't ask for her phone number. He didn't say, hey, you're beautiful. I want to talk to you. I want to take you on a date. Let's meet up at 7 p.m. No, he bought a drink for her and her friend. It wasn't even just her. It would have been different if it's like, okay, he buys a drink only for her and, he's kind of treating her special. But no, her non-black friend who's with her, she's also getting a drink as well. So do you see the difference between her friend versus herself? And by the way, as I'm recording this, I'm watching it in the background and I'm kind of like responding to it, kind of analyzing it as I go. But she decides to still DM this white man who just stood her up at the bar. And then she said that the guy was liking her IG stories for like a couple of days. You know how men try to like put heart eyes and stuff. And, so no apology for not showing up. Nothing to help rectify the situation. She doesn't even say that she has this man's phone number at this point. She has already lost sleep over this white man within the first 24 hours of meeting his dusty Croatian ass. Well, I think he might be from another country. But so then this white man DMs her, and he asked her and her friend if they want to come to dinner. Like, the way that I'm thinking about this is I'm wondering how her friend looks, because why is the friend always included in the interactions with him? Do you see how femcels, they will take one little breadcrumb of male attention and then they romanticize that man? And it's like, in the first 5 minutes of her talking about meeting him, this man has done nothing special for her at all. Every benefit that she's getting from him, her friend is also getting the same benefit. So like the drinks, he bought drinks for her and the friend. He wanted to invite her and her friend to the dinner. It's never even just her. So women who have a femcel mindset, they're so desperate that they're willing to settle. Would you ever go on a date and the guy said, hey, you can bring your friend Sarah and let's all hang out? That's not a date, ma'am. That's just a man being dusty, wanting as much female attention as possible. And then at the 4-minute mark, this woman says that her friend didn't even want to go. So even her friend realized that this white man is dusty. Even the friend is like, girl, I don't want to go to this. I'd rather just enjoy Croatia. I'd rather go to sleep. But this black woman insists on them going. So she drags her friend out to this dinner. And then she says that they start getting drunk on a bunch of wine. Okay, so that's extremely dangerous. And again, this is all for the white male gaze. So you're telling me that black women are willing to travel across the world and get drunk with a stranger in another country, all because he has blonde hair and blue eyes? Because that's what she said at the beginning of the video. She was like, oh, I saw this man. He was so hot. He had blonde hair and blue eyes. Okay, so apparently, if he has blonde hair and blue eyes, then, she is gonna go and get drunk with him in another country. That's extremely unsafe. That's extremely stupid. That's how I know that a lot of these women, they have very bad family backgrounds. Like this girl saying that she was open and willing to get drunk with a stranger in another country, that's very dangerous. It makes me question if she has anyone in her personal life who loves her. Any family members, mom, dad, grandma, somebody. Because if I were to go to another country and I were to tell my parents, oh, hey, mom, hey, dad, yeah, I'm going to this bar in Croatia. I just met this random guy. We're about to get drunk. My parents would be immediately concerned. Like my family would be concerned about my well-being. So that's why I talk a lot about how a lot of Black women with this mindset are actually very codependent. A lot of them, they don't have good mother figures according to their own talking points. They don't have mother figures. They don't have good father figures. And so they try to latch on to the nearest white man because they're looking for someone to turn their life into a fantasy. A lot of these women have been watching content where it's focused on things like divesting or swirling or being hypergamous with a white man. And they will twist content creators like Shira7, they will twist her content and then they will try to make it as if she's encouraging women to go and ask random men for their Instagrams, to go and follow random white men in other countries and get drunk with them, to try to sit at a bar and then be stood up by a white man and then still be chasing after him the next day. But then it gets worse because she said that while they were at the dinner that she was drunk and then she was asking the guy what his type is. So the desperate thing that they do where they go on TikTok and they comment on Asian men's posts and they'll be like, do you like chocolate? Do you like black girls? Do you like 4C hair? So she's doing this in Croatia to this random white man. Like, what's your type? She asked the guy's friend, like, what's his type? And guess what the man says? The first thing this man says is someone hardworking. Sis, that's not a compliment. If a man likes you because he assumes you're a hardworking black woman, I thought you guys didn't want to be masculine. I thought you didn't want to be a mule. And by the way, we have actually studied like the Reddit posts of white men talking about why they date black women. Go on Reddit right now. Go on the interracial dating forum and go look at why a lot of those white men date black women. And they'll say it's because the black women are paying all the bills. They're more hardworking. So basically they're riding the coattails. So these women went from being mules and mammies for black men to now being mules and mammies and pick-me's for white men. So apparently this white guy at the dinner, he said, oh, I like someone who's very hardworking. And then he starts listing off like all these other generic qualities. But that's already a red flag. If a man starts bragging about how his preference is someone who's as hardworking as possible, that's not the type of man I would be interested in because I don't want to have to work like a slave in order to be with this man. And then after the man was done naming his type, the black girl, her friend, is like, oh, well, she meets this type except she just can't cook. And then this black woman, she makes it worse by telling this man, oh, well, I'd be willing to learn how to cook for a man that's good. I'd be willing to learn how to cook for you, basically. So now this woman is basically offering her services. She is offering being a good cook. She says she's hardworking. That's what this man likes. Clearly, this is a low-effort Dusty. This is a low-effort, dusty-ass, bum-ass white boy. But because he had blonde hair and blue eyes, like what she said, now she's willing to essentially be his slave. This is a modern-day form of slavery. So we went from African-American slavery in the 1800s to now modern-day slavery where we got black women offering random white men to be their cook. Offering a random white man at a dinner who just stood you up the night before, according to your own talking points at the 5-minute mark. He just stood your ass up. You guys haven't even exchanged phone numbers. And now you're over here saying, oh, well, I could be a good cook too. I's a good Negro. Then she says that this white man literally bursts out laughing at her. Then she says she put her hand on his leg, like when she's laughing. You know how women try to do that when they're flirting? Okay, so wait a minute. So now, not only are you drunk with a stranger who just stood you up, but now you're touching his leg. So now you're 2 inches away from grabbing his dick. A man that just stood you up You guys don't have each other's phone numbers. You probably don't even know this man's last name. And then at the 7 minute and 9 second mark, this girl says, oh, well, I felt such electricity with him, and I felt like it was an electric shock. Ma'am, you do not have intuition, because the way your nervous system works, if it's a guy who's actually normal and safe, your nervous system is supposed to feel safe with him. You're not supposed to feel your entire nervous system getting activated. So if you feel like you're getting electrocuted, that's actually a red flag. That's your nervous system telling you, like, okay, back off. This is unsafe. This man, I'm touching his leg. I'm going beyond my boundaries. That's really what that nervous system signal was in her body. Her touching a stranger's leg when she's drunk in another country and extremely vulnerable. Clearly, she's very desperate. That was actually her nervous system trying to warn her, like, hey, stop it. You're going too far. Stop touching this man's leg. You don't know this man. He just stood you up yesterday. Stop looking for this man's approval. But what happens is a lot of Black women are very disconnected from their intuition, because think about it. A lot of them lie to themselves about their hair texture. They lie to themselves about exoticals and our phenotypes and our backgrounds. They lie to themselves about things like colorism, texturism, featureism. They lie to themselves about being the preferences for white men. So I'm not surprised that this Black woman was confused with how she was feeling. I'm not surprised that her nervous system's alarms went off and she was mistaking anxiety for love. And also, even if she did feel electricity and it felt good, okay, what does that mean? I'm not about to just revolve my life around a random stranger who just ditched me at a bar because I felt excited with touching him. Of course you feel excited. You haven't touched a man in 10 years. No man has wanted to be within 10 feet of you for the past decade. You clearly have no social skills or dating skills, which is why you continue to get played. So yeah, of course you're feeling electricity. You're fangirling over this man. You're fangirling over his blonde hair and blue eyes. You're pedestalizing this man and objectifying him and fetishizing him. So even if it does feel good in the moment, that doesn't mean you should move forward. Just because I'm turned on by something, that doesn't mean I should act on it. And a lot of women, they are living their life based on what's in between their legs. Like, I'm not ever going to do that. I will never be dick whipped by a man. She literally was dick whipped by this man, this white man, within 24 hours. And remember, according to her own talking points, they don't even have each other's phone numbers. All they've been doing was DMing on Instagram. All this man did was buy her and her friend a drink. So that's another red flag, because it's like, okay, are you that irrelevant to where nobody has ever even bought you a drink? And by the way, I will say, I don't think this girl's African American. I'm not sure. Her name, I just looked at it a second ago. It looks like she could be Nigerian or African, some sort of African immigrant. But it's like, okay, is your inferiority complex that bad to where all it takes is a man buying you and your friend a drink? So not even just you, nothing special. Nothing that she has said so far is anything where it indicates dating interest. Sometimes men will go to bars and they will buy a drink for like every woman in the bar because they're hoping that some woman is dumb enough to sleep with him based on that. So a man buying me and my friend a drink, and then he invites me and my friend out to the bar, and then he invites me and my friend to go to dinner, that is not something that would make me think, oh, well, he really likes me. No, he just likes female attention. He's a broke Dusty who's probably lonely, and he's probably desperate, because remember what I said in the Decentering Men series about how most men feel irrelevant without the presence of women. And clearly this Black girl feels irrelevant without the presence of a white man, which is why she was acting so desperate. And then she's like, when I touched him, me and him instantly had this physical attraction towards each other. Well, sis, how do you know? Because according to your own talking points, within the first 8 minutes, he never even said that he was physically attracted to you. He never acted like he was very physically attracted to you. He never did anything special to show that he was physically attracted to you. So a man liking it when you're 2 inches away from his dick, that's not the same as, oh my God, he's so attracted to me. And a lot of women in the Black community are so desperate to be a man's preference. Has anyone noticed that? They're obsessed with who's the preference. Who does he like? Who do white men prefer? Oh, I'm excited because white men prefer me. Finally, I get to see what it's like to be a preference. a man liking it when you touch his leg and you're 2 inches away from his dick, that doesn't mean that you're his preference. It just means that he is a normal man having a normal human reaction to a hand being next to his dick. That doesn't mean, oh my God, we were so attracted to each other and there was electricity. So you can hear this woman's magical thinking already kicking in. And you can tell that she hasn't been around a lot of men, or like at least not a lot of white men. And you can also tell that she's very out of tune with her intuition, probably because she spends her free time trying to chase after white men or non-black men. And then she said that this man, she found out that he was like working in tech and he was like a chief marketing officer. Okay, bitch, in what country? In what country? Because let's be honest, every country's infrastructure is not the same. I don't care what race a man is. I don't care if you're white. Okay, so if you're the CEO in a poor country or in a country where the currency is not the same, or, you know, if you have an executive position at a very, very small company, that still means nothing. And also, again, if he's so rich, if he's got so much money, why did he not pursue her harder? Why didn't he actually buy just her something special? So you're allowing a man's words. That's another red flag that this woman already has. Like within the first 7 minutes and 34 seconds, she's admitting that she's very gullible to men. You know those types of women where they don't believe what you say. They don't believe what the exoticals say. They don't believe my decentering men content. They think that is just, I must be bitter or something must be wrong with me. But they will believe every word that comes out of a white man's mouth. They are hanging on to this man's words like he's the Apostle Paul. They're hanging on to this man's words like he's Jesus Christ. Everything that comes out of this man's mouth, it must be the truth. It must be perfect. Oh, he said he's the chief marketing officer. Chief marketing officer of what? What company? You think a man can't lie to you? You think a drunk man can't lie to a random woman in a bar who just touched his leg? She's already 2 inches away from his dick. So, of course, he's probably going to lie. He's like, look, she's already about to give it to me right now, so let me just try to say one more thing so that I can get lucky tonight and use her for sex. Duh. And also, I just looked up the average salary of like a chief marketing officer in Copenhagen. So it's saying that you would make $542,000 to $762,000 a year. So you mean to tell me that you actually believed this guy? So you believed a random man in a bar who says he makes $700,000 per year. Meanwhile, you just saw that guy at the restaurant. He didn't even pick up your tab at the restaurant. If he really has it like that, because remember, she said that they passed each other and then, she ended up leaving the restaurant while they were coming in. So that's already another red flag. He didn't even ask her on a date. But at the very least, he could have picked up the tab of her and her friends since he's so rich, since he supposedly makes $700,000. So this man, and by the way, making $500 to $700 a year, I still don't consider that rich because according to like the US Census, that is not considered rich. So that's another thing. A lot of women in the Black community, they don't define what they identify as being rich. It's really that they're chasing after upper middle class. That's really what it is. Okay, so that tells me that you are middle class or lower class, lower working class, or you come from that type of background, especially if you're a Black woman with an African immigrant background. The types of poverty that we see in a lot of those countries are just, it's unmatched. So it's like, yeah, of course you're going to have stars in your eyes seeing a European man. You just grew up in the middle of Africa in a monocultural setting. But if I'm in a bar and some random drunk guy wants to imply that he makes $700,000 per year, then guess what? It should be very easy to look this man up. So that's another reason that I say a lot of Black women are disconnected from their intuition, because you can look him up. Like I told you guys the football story in my Patreon. I looked that guy up because I don't know anything about the NFL. So if a guy says, hey, I was in the NFL, or hey, I do this, I should be able to find that online. He should have a digital footprint if he is so wealthy and so successful. If he had any measure of major success, if he's a CEO, if he works at a really great company, that should easily be searchable on LinkedIn. So the fact that she didn't search it, the fact that she literally just believed every word that came out of this man's mouth, I would instantly be suspicious if a man says that. Because I know the actual statistics on men. on this channel, we talk about how, what is it, like 11%? Only 11 or 12% of men make over 100,000. So for you to be at 700,000, that already sounds super suspicious. That means you're in the top 0.0001%. So, yeah, I would immediately want to look that up because I'd be like, oh, wow, what are the chances? But instead of actually looking it up, and instead of just being safe in general, because to be honest, I wouldn't even be out with this guy who just ditched me and stood me up at the bar the other night. I would never tolerate a man that even treats me like that. A man who stands you up, he's treating you like an option. He's treating you like you're not shit. Her sitting at the bar the night before, being jet lagged, probably damn near about to fall asleep. She's in another country. She might be a little bit drunk. She might be lost. She has to find her way back to her hotel. I would never let a man treat me like that and allow me to be in an unsafe environment like that. But this girl, instead of having boundaries, she decides to meet up with the same guy and then grab on his leg. She's over here grabbing on thighs. She's grabbing on this white man's thigh meat the next day. And then this man rejects her a second time because she said that after they got drunk, he offered for them to all go to another bar and to get some more drinks. And once again, her friend stops it and says, no, I don't want to go out anymore. So this black woman, her friend sounds like she's the only one with some sense out of the two of them. Because the friend is like, okay, no, we're too drunk. I'm going home. And so then finally the black girl goes home. Then she says she gets a DM from this man saying, oh, well, it was nice to meet you. Basically, I hope to see you in South Africa. So this man is admitting he doesn't want to continue seeing you. If a man says it was nice meeting you, ma'am, that means that he's not going to be your boyfriend. He's not going to be your husband. He's not going to be your sugar daddy because he's just saying, nice to meet you, like, okay, see you around. And he knows that you're never coming back. And then she said that when he made the comment about seeing her in South Africa, she said that she had, quote unquote, jokingly invited him to South Africa with her because she was like, oh yeah, I want to travel. Like, you're welcome to come. Okay, so now you're offering to take him on a vacation. You're offering for him to come along with you. So that's very masculine. That's masculine. This woman has put herself in the position of a pursuer. She chases after the man as opposed to kind of like resting. You know how they talk about resting in their femininity? Inviting men on trips, asking men for their contact info, getting stood up in a bar, and then still tolerating that man the next day. That's not, quote unquote, resting in your femininity. And then around like the 9-minute and 10-second mark, she says that as she continues traveling, that this man, he keeps responding to her stories and, she's interested in him because of that. So do you see what I mean about how they settle for breadcrumbs from white men? So him liking a story is enough for her to want to date him, want to fuck him, want to spend her life with him, want to invite him on trips. Just watching a story. That is how invisible. Like when they talk about feeling invisible, I mean, I didn't know that the women were feeling this invisible because this woman has such a pedestal for this white man. She's making everything have like this magical meaning. She keeps writing a love story in her head about this man. She's writing a love story that doesn't exist. She's basically implying because he's watching all of my stories, that means that he has intentions with me. And meanwhile, she doesn't even have this guy's phone number. A man where she doesn't even have his phone number. She thinks that he is intentionally trying to be with her. And then the red flags get worse. At the 9-minute and 33-second mark, this woman says that she continues traveling. So she's traveling to Spain. So it sounds like this woman, she kind of saved up her money, or she's a successful woman. Why would I ruin my trip around the world over some dusty? So she said that she was in Spain in the Chanel store, like gonna get herself a Chanel bag. And then this man who claimed to be a CMO, like a chief marketing officer or something. He claimed to be at the executive level. We just looked up the amount of money you would make, 500 to 700K. She's in the Chanel store. If he really liked her, don't you think he would have bought her the Chanel bag? Don't you think he would have said, hey, baby, I got it. I really like you. I really want to date you. Don't you think he would have at least exchanged phone numbers with her? But no, this Dusty messages her and says, oh, did you buy the Chanel bag? Do you know how Dusty... I'm sorry, I'm trying not to laugh. So you're telling me you believe this man when he claims to make six figures, a man who makes 700K, he doesn't give a fuck. He's not even going to get you a Chanel bag or anything. Okay, so it's already been proven that he clearly is not wealthy. He clearly doesn't have money like that, because generally speaking, a man who's super rich and really is into you, he would have bought it. But instead, this man decides to watch her purchase her own Chanel stuff at the store. And then this girl, she was dumb enough to send him a photo. She sent him a photo of her like in a bikini, like in the Chanel store or something like that. So she is constantly rewarding this white man for bare minimum behavior. That is another cultural phenomenon I've seen with a lot of black women. They reward people for bad behavior. I just did a video about Baddies, the TV show. They reward women with bad behavior. They reward these people with fame. They reward people with pedestals. They constantly make people famous that they hate. So that's kind of what this girl was doing with the white man. She was like still sending him pictures, still giving him attention, even though he didn't give her shit. He stood her up at the bar once already. He never even hung out with her alone. It was always her and the friend. And now, instead of him sending her money to purchase the bag or gifting her a bag, since he claims to, have money, or since she thinks he has money, nope. He would rather just look at her half-naked body. And she is willing to settle for this. Do you think she would do this to a man who is black? Do you think she would have sent him photos? You can tell that she is seeking approval. That's another cultural phenomenon that we see in the black community. It's seeking approval from men, seeking approval from white men, wanting to show pictures of your body to a man, wanting to send him photos. And also, that's girlfriend behavior. That's boyfriend-girlfriend behavior. I don't just send random guys in a bar, some random ass dude that I just met in a bar the other night, send him a photo of me in my bra and underwear. Do you know how good my body looks? And on top of that, I'm out shopping and you didn't even offer to get me anything, but you want to see pictures of my ass? You got me all the way fucked up. I would never do something like that. My body is too valuable and too beautiful for me to just share it with random guys at bars who stood me up at the bar the other day. I would never in my life do that. So that's another desperate attention-seeking behavior. It's a femcel mindset where she has this desire to be sexy. She desires being desired. She's desperate to be desired. She's desperate to feel desired. If I really want to send somebody a picture, why can't I just send a picture of me smiling? Like, I have a nice face card. Why can't I just send my face card? Women who are more desperate will do shit like this. This man, he already ditched you. He was already disrespectful. You guys didn't even give each other phone numbers, yet you're sending him pictures for free. Nothing in return. And then she says that the reason she was sending him pictures is because she felt like she could just be herself with him. Okay, so what is being yourself? Is it being desperate? Because for the first 8 minutes, it doesn't sound like her and this man had any deep conversations about anything. Doesn't sound like they really talked about anything. Because she admitted that all they did was basically get drunk together. He saw her at the restaurant and kept walking. And then he saw her at the bar, or he didn't even show up to the bar. And now she's sending him bikini pics and, I can be myself with him. Okay, so that means that you're emotionally promiscuous, you're emotionally desperate. You know how they talk about women being for the streets, like in terms of sex? I believe that there's a such thing as being emotionally promiscuous, emotionally for the streets. So you're willing to give random guys all your emotional energy. That's what this girl is doing. Imagine standing in the mirror trying to do the perfect pose, trying to show off the perfect shape in your bikini or whatever, all for a man that didn't even give you his phone number? Like, when I think about this woman, she's not interacting with this man. She is interacting with the fantasy of what she hopes this man is. She is hoping that this man is rich and can change her life. She is looking for a fairy tale moment. She's looking for a fairy tale of being chosen by a high status man. So she's just projecting status onto him because he's white, he's foreign. A lot of women who have kind of these immigrant backgrounds or they come from poor countries, a lot of women have a fantasy about people who are born in wealthier countries. So it's very similar. You know how like the passport bros, you know how a lot of poor women, they only get with the passport bros because they feel like they must be wealthy or whatever. That's kind of what she's doing with this white man. It's almost like he is the passport bro in this scenario, and she is looking for a fantasy. And now I'm curious, like, is that why she's traveling? Because I've also heard a lot of black women online talk about going to places to get male attention. I've heard them talk a lot about going to places like Italy and Spain in hopes to get like foreign male attention or whatever, because they associate men from those countries with status. And it's like, no, you can be dusty in any country. But she's definitely living in a fantasy. And she feels like this man will give her a shortcut to a life of luxury. And it sounds like she already is living a life of luxury. You know, she's not even acknowledging the fact that she paid for herself to go across the world. You know, she's the one that was able to manifest this lifestyle for herself. So instead of appreciating herself and what she was able to give herself, instead of just practicing self-love, she decides to view this random man from a bar as a shortcut. And that's a cultural phenomenon that we see in the black female community too. There's always this fantasy of some ethereal white man or Asian man, Hispanic man. You know, a lot of them have crushes on K-pop stars. A lot of them are obsessed with these K-pop men. Some of them are obsessed with like bisexual men and celebrities and football players. They're enamored with those types of men because they view those men as like a shortcut to the soft life. So the reason I don't like that talking point is because I don't want to center my entire life around a man. I want to still be able to live a soft life with or without a man present. But you can tell that girl, the Danish deception girl, you can tell that she is a pick-me. And she's willing to sacrifice her own intuition. Because remember, her nervous system went off when she was touching him. When she was touching his leg, her nervous system was feeling an electricity feeling. Electricity feelings in your body, it's really a signal of danger in a lot of cases. And in the black community, they have normalized feeling electricity because they normalize toxic relationships and toxic dynamics in the black community. So her idea that if I have a lot of strong physical reactions, that means I like him, that's a toxic Blackistan talking point. I'm just being honest. Oh, and I forgot to mention how in the beginning she was like, a lot of men don't usually catch my attention. Okay, so that could be a potential scarcity mindset as well, because if she's the type of woman where she feels like most men are ugly, most men are dusty, most men are poor, you know, I have a very specific type, I understand where she's coming from, but I think that scarcity mindset is also a part of what led her to be so desperate. So then she says that this guy invites her to Ibiza. And remember, this guy is supposed to be rich. And then she says, oh, I have to work. So I don't know if she works remotely, but like the way that I view it is if this man is a multimillionaire and if you can't come because you have to work, I mean, shouldn't this guy be able to cash app you or something or be able to like pay for your expenses so that you can take a weekend off? Shouldn't he be able to come see you? And then she says that, oh, he started pursuing me more because he was sending me more messages. Okay, so sending DMs and text messages, apparently that is pursuit. That is her definition of pursuit. That's another Blackistan talking point I've noticed. Like a lot of desperate pick-me's from the black community, for whatever reason, they view text messages and comments as a man pursuing you. If he texts you and says, I want to see you, you know, apparently that's him pursuing because that's what this girl says. She's saying that, oh, he was pursuing me harder because he's saying, you need to see me in Copenhagen, and when can I come to Dallas to see you? Okay, words are not the same as actions. So again, she's very gullible. She's gullible because he's a white male. You know, if he says he wants to see me, it means he wants to see me. Okay, but if he's rich, if he's a chief marketing officer, then he should be able to come see you in Dallas immediately. And he definitely should have been able to cover your expenses so that you could take off work. And remember, this is the same man who has already stood her up in the bar. That's another red flag. Why the fuck would I go and fly to another country to hang out with a man who just stood me up at the bar? And then she says that this guy offered to pay for her flight to Monaco just to come hang out with him. Okay, first of all, when it comes to men flying you out, I don't put that on a pedestal because I actually know of girls in real life where a man flew them out and then the man ghosted them, or, maybe the man was an abuser, or turns out that man already has a girlfriend or a wife and he's trying to trap her in another country with him, to where she can't afford to fly back on her own. She's dependent on him for like transportation. Um, so the fact that this woman is not thinking anything through, she's not thinking about her own safety. She's literally, it sounds like she's willing to risk her life just for the shot, just so she can have a story to tell. Have you ever been around those types of black women where they just want to have a story to tell? They just want to be able to come back to their friends and brag about how they got flued out. And by the way, this man, he said that he had a work conference in Monaco. So it's not like, oh, I love you so much and I know that it's your dream to go to Monaco. So I'm going there specifically because you want to go there. No, it's more so he's already treating her like she's a convenience. He always wants her to fly to where he's at, as opposed to him taking the time off work. I mean, if he's so rich, he shouldn't have to work another day in his life, really. So he should have been able to fly out to Dallas. So it's like he hasn't come to see her, but then he wants her to make the effort to come to see him. Do you see the mismatch already? Do you see the energetic mismatch? Do you see how she has no intuition? She doesn't follow her intuition at all. She's already putting in way more effort than what he's putting in. So she's the one that's going to have to deal with the jet lag. She's going to be in a country solo traveling with a man that she only got drunk with. She doesn't know anything about that man. Because from what she said, they didn't have any real conversations. She didn't spend any time getting to know him. It's, nope, I'm just going to randomly fly out to another country. I don't know anything about this man. He could be secretly married and have 5 kids. Don't care. I'm just going to go there. Just so I can have a story to tell. Just so I can flex on social media. Have you ever noticed in black culture, there's this culture of flexing? They just want to flex everything on social media. They want to announce to the world that they're on a trip. Have you ever been around those types of women? Have you ever been around the types of black women where they make everything about wanting to travel? They feel like traveling is a sign of the soft life. And I'm not saying it's not, because I think that it is. But it's like, I'm not willing to risk my life with a stranger just so I can go to Monaco. So do you see the codependency there? She can't afford to go to Monaco on her own, or maybe she doesn't want to, so she's depending on this guy to just go ahead and pay for her to come to Monaco. First of all, if you like me that much, instead of paying for me to go to another country with you when you're still a stranger, you could have paid for a date by now. You could have paid to come see me by now and take me out several times. You could have paid for that Chanel bag. So she's not good at pattern recognition. A lot of women with inferiority complexes are not good at recognizing patterns. This man has already had a tendency to say no to her. He didn't get her the Chanel bag. He didn't get her the dinner when he passed them up at the restaurant. He stood her up at the bar. That's already strike 1, 2, and 3. And then suddenly he's saying that he has a work conference and he can fly her out to the work conference. That already sounds sketchy and like a scam, to be honest. That already sounds like a scam to me. And then this girl finally gives him her phone number after like however many weeks. And he's like, oh, well, it took you long enough. I've been waiting for you to give me your phone number. Bitch, what the fuck? If you want my phone number, you could have asked for it. So she's not realizing that if he wanted to, he would. Women have men come up and ask for their phone number upon first meeting them. Men will ask for your phone number at the gas station. So the fact that it was that hard for that man to ask for the woman's phone number, that already tells me, that's another clue that he is a bare minimum Brad. He's a bare minimum type of guy. He only does things that are convenient for him. Like, oh, maybe I'll pay for her flight if my job will pay for it. So it's the company credit card paying for it. And then I get some sex when she gets here. So it's basically a free prostitute. Well, actually, that's even worse because at least prostitutes, at least ex workers, they actually get paid like in cash. So this girl, she's just going there. And that's another thing. Not once has this woman thought about this man's intentions. So that's another sign that some women are literally just dumbasses with men. If he's white, she just assumes like, oh, okay, he has the best intentions. He wants to marry me and he wants to just pursue me and be with me. We're going to be happily ever after. And it's like, well, if a man's flying you out, especially if he's flying you across the world, what do you think he wants when you get there? And then she said that when she finally talked on the phone with this man, she said she was nervous and like discombobulated when he was giving her a phone call. Okay, so that was actually another warning from her nervous system. Her nervous system was getting activated because it's like, wait a minute, this doesn't normally happen. I don't know what to expect here. So instead of her slowing down, she wants to rush. She's rushing past all of her body's signals. And when the guy called her, she said that he was like on a trip. He claimed that he was on a work trip. Okay, so chief marketing officer. So I have done a little bit of marketing and PR. This is like when I was really young. I don't know of a lot of chief marketing jobs where you have to fly to other countries that often. So that would also be another red flag for me. I mean, this guy would have already been blocked if it was me, but that's another red flag. Why is he traveling to all these different countries all the time just to do marketing? You have to go to that many conferences for a chief marketing. And also, not once has she looked up his company that he claims to work for. If he's a chief officer somewhere, he's an executive, she didn't even look up the company. She just blindly follows and believes everything he says because she's male-centered. She worships this guy. And for those of you who are thinking, oh, well, Exoticals United, every company is not a big company. Okay, so then that's another red flag. That tells me that he's not making $500,000 to $700,000 per year. And also, if he is working for a big company, okay, it should be an international company then. If he's traveling internationally all the time with his company, he works at an international business. So I should easily be able to find that with a quick Google search. In fact, she said that he was DMing her on Instagram. That should be on his Instagram then. That he's a chief marketing officer at, Johnson & Johnson or, some major company. He should have a blue check mark by his name, as a matter of fact. If he's an executive, if he is on the level of think of Warren Buffett or like somebody, okay, it doesn't have to be Warren Buffett, but think of like Mark Zuckerberg or somebody who is at the executive level of an international business company and he works in tech. She said he works in tech. Okay, so if he is a very, very high level tech professional, he might be doing speaking engagements. He might be doing a lot of stuff. So he should have a blue check mark on his Instagram because, his company needs that credibility. His company is paying for that. So if he's traveling the world, if the company pays for him to travel to different countries all the time, just for him to go to work conferences, he most certainly should have his own website, business cards, a LinkedIn, some sort of testimonials of some sort or an online presence. So that's another reason that I know that her nervous system was already recognizing the patterns, like something is off about this. But she keeps ignoring it. She keeps ignoring the red flags. And by the way, a lot of men lie to impress women. So it's like if every time I talk on the phone with a man, he's traveling somewhere new, that automatically sounds like a lie. It sounds like a lie. Because most CMOs, they spend their time in meetings. And this is how I know a lot of these women, they come from lower socioeconomic statuses. So in this girl's case, I don't know where she's from. Maybe she built herself up. That's what it sounds like. Sounds like she worked hard to build herself up to a higher socioeconomic status. But that's still a disadvantage because even though she's social climbing, she didn't grow up around executive culture. She didn't grow up around corporate culture. Because in my case, since I did grow up around a lot of people who had parents who had corporate jobs and all that, I would already spot the red flags. I'd be like, wait a minute. A lot of executives and a lot of management, they tend to either do speaking engagements, networking conferences maybe once per quarter or maybe once a month if they have a technical job. And then they're going to have an online presence. They're definitely going to be in meetings all the time. So they wouldn't necessarily even be available to talk on the phone all the time. So for the Pretty Girl Club, one thing you can do, and I've done this before too, like if I've dated a guy who's a professional and he says he's traveling, if he says, I'm going to a work conference, okay, what's the name of the conference? What is it? Are you going to an engineering conference, a tech conference? Tell me the name of the actual conference. And what days are you going? Are you speaking at the conference? Where's the flyer? Let me see the flyer. Because those are all things that should automatically be happening. I mean, to be honest though, I wouldn't even tolerate a man where I even have to ask those questions because again, if he is legit, you're already going to see the flyers. You'll see him on the flyer. You'll see the conference that he's going to. If you're friends with him on Instagram, you'll see him posting on his stories like, oh, can't wait to see you guys at this convention. Can't wait to see you guys at the marketing convention. Okay, I'll see you guys there. Okay, I'll be there with Facebook. Okay, I just checked in and I got my badge. I'll see you guys at the Forbes Under 30 conference. So it's going to be more above board. It's not going to be just him on the phone randomly. Oh yeah, actually I'm in a cab. I'm about to travel right now. No, that sounds like a dusty liar. That sounds just like a dusty man lying. And another reason that I already know that this man is dusty within like the first 10 minutes of her video is because, like in my case, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm technically a CEO of my own little small company. I have a very set calendar. Everything that I am doing, whether it's social, whether it's for this channel, it's all in a calendar. So if that man claims to be a professional and he claims to have this busy life and he's traveling all the time, yet he wants to see you that bad, you guys should be discussing each other's calendars. Like, he should be putting you into his calendar. You should be aware of when the conferences are, when his meetings are, because executives have meetings all the time. So if he has never even mentioned a calendar, or you've never even seen him take out a calendar, that's another red flag. But again, this man is basically a stranger to this black woman. He's a stranger, so she's already down bad. She's already cooked from the beginning by trusting a stranger this much. And then at the 14-minute mark, she says she talks to this guy for 2 hours a day. Now, if that doesn't tell you he's dusty, I don't know what else will. 2 hours a day, so 14 hours a week. This man has time for an entire part-time job just of talking to you. Generally speaking, men do not speak as much as women. They don't talk as much as women. So the more a man wants to just talk on the phone rather than meeting up with you, the more dusty he is. And she doesn't seem to realize that. So now I'm also questioning her father figure, or like uncles, brothers, anybody around her. So this man, he doesn't have the money to get you a Chanel bag. He doesn't have the money to travel to Dallas to see you, since he's traveling all the time. Since he's an executive, he can probably work remotely, right? Or maybe he works hybrid. So he doesn't have the time to travel, but he has 14 hours per week to just talk on the phone. I mean, that's already giving extreme dusty. It's giving bum. It's giving, I want to manipulate. And it also makes me question his age as well. Like, I'm wondering if this is an older guy, because that's kind of what it's starting to sound like, just based on the first 15 minutes. It's sounding like this is one of those older guys that wants to come after a younger woman so he can like manipulate. And then this girl hits the psychological jackpot because she says, oh, I've never had a serious relationship before. Well, no shit, Sherlock, we can tell. She says that she's never had a serious relationship. Then she was dumb enough to tell this man that. She told him she had never had a serious relationship before, but she wants marriage and is ready for marriage. How is it that a person that's never even been in a serious relationship is somehow an expert on marriage and that's what they want? You don't even know what you want. You don't have any experience. And then she tried to throw her parents in there as if she's so wholesome. And she's like, oh yeah, my parents are a really good background of like an amazing love. Okay, so my question is, what did your dad think of this man? Because any dad who actually gives a fuck about his daughter would not want his daughter randomly solo traveling to another country and getting drunk with a stranger, or, like any dad who cares about his daughter, he's not going to go for that. So I don't believe this girl when she says that her parents are such a good example. And what happens in a lot of poor families, or if you come from an immigrant family, sometimes your parents are so busy in survival mode when you're growing up. They're so busy that they don't have time to teach you emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is really one of the main things that helps you to like spot red flags and stuff. So, I mean, there are already red flags. This guy should have already been blocked. But she's still talking to him for 14 hours a week. So she says 2 hours a day. Okay, 14 hours a week. So he's an executive, but he randomly has an extra 14 hours a week. But he doesn't have time to fly to see you. Yet supposedly he's supposed to be wealthy and, working for some international. It would have to be an international company that he's working for if he's traveling internationally so much, which I think he was lying about. And by the way, when these women talk about things like hypergamy and swirling and dating and all that, leveling up so you can date a wealthier man, they never have an example of a positive relationship that they're trying to emulate. So for example, in this woman's case, she said that she looks up to her parents. She wanted to emulate her parents. Okay, first of all, both of her parents are black. Unambiguous, I'm assuming, just based on how she looks and based on her name and everything. Okay, so you're looking up to a black couple as your standard for how you want to do an interracial couple? That doesn't make sense. The math ain't mathin'. So do you see what I mean? It's the blind leading the blind. That's why most of them will never succeed, because they don't have an actual standard. They're trying to make up a standard as they go. And then she said that this man talked about his last breakup and how he was with a woman for 4 years. Okay, what happened to the whole, oh, I want to get married and all that? Okay, this girl admitted she wanted marriage, but then this man is admitting that he was with a woman for 4 years without marrying her, and that they lived together. Why would a man need to live with a woman if he's so rich? Most men with resources, they're not going to just move a woman in and, they live together for 4 years. And then he's like, oh, actually, I don't want kids. And so now it was hard for him to get out of the relationship. She said that this man, he started telling a story about how it was difficult for him to get out of the relationship because they lived together. Why would it be difficult to move unless you're poor? So if he's rich and makes 500 to 700K, it should be nothing for him to just move out or to move her out, or to pay her off, pay for her to go rent an apartment somewhere else for 6 months so she gets away from you. So that's another red flag that she missed. I mean, she's already missed like 20 different red flags. But it's like any man who's rich, he would be able to easily get rid of a squatter, or, he'd be able to easily just move away or to pay her to go away. That's what a lot of men will do. They'll pay for the girl to get the fuck out. So this man is admitting to her that, he was with this woman for 4 years. It was difficult for them to get out of the relationship. And then the man said that once he realized that she wanted kids, he realized that she wasn't the one. Okay, that sounds like bullshit. Men are not stupid. They're not. Men are actually very smart. So you can't tell me that you've been with someone for 4 years and then it's never crossed your mind, hey, do I want to spend my life with her or not? You're telling me that that's never crossed your mind, and then suddenly when she says, oh, actually, I do want kids, now you're running for the hills? Okay, so if this man is child-free, the woman in the video, the black woman, she said that she wanted kids, and she told him that. So that's already an automatic incompatibility right there. You want kids, he clearly doesn't. So why are you wasting each other's time then? Especially since you want marriage so bad. You claim to be ready for marriage, but you've never even had a boyfriend or anything. So you just want to jump into a marriage. That's how this girl is coming off. Women with inferiority complexes are desperate for marriage, I've noticed. A lot of them are very desperate for relationships, very desperate for marriage. And it's more so about them wanting to feel chosen. Marriage makes you feel chosen. I mean, for me, it does. If you've decentered men, it doesn't. But for women who are male-centered and they feel inferior, yeah. They feel like that's the ultimate form of being chosen. It's when this non-black man wants to marry me, then we can have our little exotical babies and live happily ever after. And also them having just broken up, like this guy, he just broke up with his ex 4 months ago, but they were together 4 years. Men will try to spin the block. I mean, there are a lot of men who try to spin the block like 20 years later. So 4 months is really nothing. And then she says that they were talking on the phone every day for hours and they fell in love over the phone. So this is a typical Femcel scenario. Falling in love with a phone operator. Like falling in love with someone via FaceTime. Falling in love with someone over the internet. Limerence. I talk about that a lot. This girl was in limerence. She was not in love with this man. Because remember, this man is a stranger from another country who wanted her to get drunk and who stood her up at the bar. But she was so enamored by where he's from and like what he told her. She was so gullible and just believed every word that came out of his mouth, to the point where he was able to manipulate her into limerence. And that's why a lot of men who are like narcs, a lot of them love to talk for a long time. Anytime a man wants to talk on the phone for hours and hours, that's definitely a red flag of him being a narc, because the more he wants to talk to you, especially if he's significantly older, he's trying to brainwash you into having limerence over him. He wants to brainwash you into putting him on a pedestal. He's trying to rush. This woman, she's trying to rush into a relationship with this man. She's trying to rush into emotional intimacy. They're having like this fake emotional intimacy over the phone. Real emotional intimacy happens in person. It's when you can see that person face to face. You can touch each other, you can laugh with each other and all that. You can kind of like pick up on their micro expressions. But this woman, she falls for words. She doesn't fall for actions. He didn't get her the Chanel bag. He didn't come and actually meet her up at the bar. He didn't actually take her to dinner one-on-one. Remember, they've never even been on a date. She said that she's in love with a man who has never even taken her on not one date. She said she fell in love over the phone, so that's how low her standards are. You don't even have to take her on a date. You can just talk to her on the phone. She'll be in love. So it's classic love bombing. Women with inferiority complexes are more susceptible to love bombing because if you think about their content, like go watch Chrissy's channel, go watch a lot of the Black female advice channels, and a lot of them, they actually describe love bombers as their standard. They'll say, oh, go for a guy who gets you all these gifts. Go for a guy who tells you how beautiful you are and like tries to take you out and wine and dine you. And this man, he didn't even do any of that. All he did was give her a couple of compliments. I mean, really, it doesn't even sound like he gave her any compliments because I'm sure she would have mentioned that in the video. She didn't. She didn't even mention this man calling her beautiful, not one time, but she did mention herself sending him sexy pics that he didn't ask for, by the way. He didn't ask for her to send him a pic when she was at the Chanel store. He didn't ask for that. She just volunteered that. She volunteered sexy images of herself, unpaid, for free. So it's classic limerence. It's classic validation seeking. And the guy obviously sounds like a love bomber. He sounds like he's a future faker. He sounds like he does that typical thing where he's selling a fantasy. And by the way, white men are also not stupid. They know that women of color place them on a pedestal, especially women with inferiority complexes. That's why you see a lot of creepy white men going after solely women of color. They go after low status, low self-esteem women of color who have never even had a boyfriend in their lives. Okay, so like I said, that's more of a pick-me type of energy. That's more femcel energy. And I don't know how old this girl is. She could just be in her 20s or something. And then another red flag that she overlooked is this man didn't want to FaceTime. And he lied and said, oh, I don't want to FaceTime. The next time that I want to see each other is in person. Yeah, of course he doesn't want to FaceTime because then you'll see his dusty living situation. Then you'll see he might have a wife and kids in the background. You'll see something that you're not supposed to see. He can't keep up the fantasy if you can actually see the background of where he lives. A man's background, that tells you a lot about his socioeconomic status. Are all of his pictures of him in a white tee with like a ghetto background? What kind of background is in all of his his photos? So of course the man doesn't want to FaceTime because then he'll be exposed. He's waiting until you're already vulnerable in another country and you can't afford to bring yourself back home. That's when he wants to let the mask fall off. So this is typical future faking, a man trying to sell a fantasy, a man trying to fake his socioeconomic status. And at the time of this recording, I'm only about 16 minutes in. So I'm just predicting at this point. And I'm going to have to make this a whole series because I knew I would have a lot to say about this. But what do you ladies think? Have you ever seen women with inferiority complexes desperately fall for love bombers, especially these men that they meet on their vacation? Remember, this is a man that she just met on her vacation. He didn't even just buy her a drink. He bought her and the friend a drink. What do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.